Are you someone who is new to adulting, getting ready for your first job, moving out from your parents' house? It's Bernadette Joy. If you want some tips on how to practically make these moves and reach financial freedom faster, check out my interview with my friend Brownie Bites.
So the first one is just pretty simple: savings tips and tricks.
Savings tips and tricks. What I found out was that most of people who want to save money, they don't have a clear amount on how much they want to save. And then people will talk about having an emergency fund, which is 3 to 6 months. But if you're just trying to move out and you're just getting started in your career, you ain't gonna have 3 to 6 months of savings right from the get-go. So I tell people to start out with 1 month's worth of savings. So write this down. This is going to be anything related to your health expenses, your housing expenses, your transportation, so like car payments, insurance, gas, that kind of stuff, your housing, so either your rent or your utilities, and food. I don't care if you're eating Uber Eats all day. So let's say that total expenses adds up to $4,000. Then your first savings goal is to have $4,000 saved up specifically in a high yield savings account so you can earn some passive income.
Yeah, so going off of that, I personally have calculated all my expenses before I quit my job because I needed to know how long I could survive without working, period. So my expenses are around $3,000. Half of that is just my rent alone. So $1,500 to my rent, and then pretty much everything else is about $1,500. And I have pets too. So if you have pets, make sure to calculate that as well. Everybody's situation is unique, but go to just your last month of spending and see what you spent on. Don't guess, because you can guess and be off $10 to $20 here and there. You could be off by hundreds of dollars when you're guessing. So just go through a month of spending and then go to it. Next question is how to start with no job and living in an area that's hard to get hired in.
Oh, okay. I grew up and spent my first 10 years of my career in Boston and in New York City, which you would think would be easy to hire because there's a lot of jobs, but there's also a lot of competition. So, shameless plug, in my book, I talk about resume and negotiation. I was a recruiter for 15 years, actually before this, so let me give you some quick secrets from a recruiter. Your resume has to be a page. If it's more than a page, then I will just ignore it, because it tells me that you don't know how to have attention to detail. You should have your LinkedIn page. Headshot is clear. Make sure you have a crisp LinkedIn bio. And then the third thing that I would say to people, if it's a place that is really hard to get hired in, or if it's an industry that's really hard to get hired in, is then go and use that LinkedIn to go and actually connect with people who are at the companies that you want to work at. You'll be actually surprised by how many people will accept those requests. I wouldn't go and be like, hey, can I pick your brain and annoy them? What I would do is say, hey, I'm interested in applying to your company. I'd love to hear if you like it there or not, and if you think it's worth me applying. Nice. And just start the conversation.
Nice, I like that. Because for me, I also recommend, if you're a college student or even a high school student, people love helping students. And if you're able to get an internship, I feel like with how competitive the job market is right now, that's your best bet. So if you're still in college, I would prioritize, even if it's an unpaid internship, prioritize getting experience now when people are more willing to help. Go to your career offices, go to your professors too. Not just because of the homework or the class. Your professors were most likely industry experts before they became professors. So they still have an in and a network of people that could still help you.
If you're enjoying this content and want to actually take real action towards crushing your money goals, check out my new book. It is Crush Your Money Goals, 25 habits that you can use starting today to pay off debt, save, invest, and reach financial freedom. It's jam-packed with all of my best tips as a debt-free millionaire and your new money mentor. Check it out at crushyourmoneygoals.com or head to Amazon or wherever you buy books.
Start with no job. How can I relocate to another state in under a year?
Oh, I've done this a couple of times. I am really a strong minimalist, so it's really easy to move when you don't have a lot of stuff. Some quick tips is if you can narrow down your stuff to be able to move without needing an entire moving truck. Yeah. Saves a ton of money. Do the math of how much it's going to take for you to move versus just buying new furniture. What my husband and I figured out was that it was actually cheaper for us to just sell the stuff we already had and just buy new furniture in a new location. When you actually buy the furniture where you're supposed to be, it actually fits correctly. Sometimes you'd be trying to haul a couch there only to realize it doesn't fit in that new place.
That's what happened with me. So I specifically got my Subaru Crosstrek because I was a college student and my parents had moved to Charlotte, so there was nobody to help me. Every time that I move in college, I have to do it by myself. Mm-hmm. So whatever car I get, it can't be like a Nissan Altima. Nothing's gonna fit in here. So I got my Subaru specifically for that. I threw out almost everything in college because we were to a point when we were packing that I was like, so overwhelmed, and I was like, it's gonna cost me like $700 to get a U-Haul. I don't want to get a U-Haul. And then I called my mom, and she was like, do you have $700 worth of stuff? I'm losing $400 essentially because I'm paying $700 to move $300 worth of stuff. So in your mind, it might feel silly to sell it or get rid of it, but if it genuinely costs you more than what the items cost to move it, just get rid of it somehow.
Totally. And goes back to the original question right before this was you should have your resume ready to go at all times. You just never know when you're going to need it.
When would you recommend to start saving for retirement?
Yesterday, the day before yesterday, as soon as possible. But if you're just like new into the adult world, I would strongly recommend that you start having the habit as soon as you get like your first paychecks, even if it's a couple of bucks, and even if you're just putting it into a traditional retirement account like an IRA. I really regret, I'm turning 40 next year, and I really regret that I waited until later on in my 20s to really start caring about retirement when I honestly had a lot more flexibility, even if I wasn't making as much money.
You don't have as many responsibilities.
You don't have as many bills, and so it only gets worse.
And then you don't really miss the money anymore if it's already been a habit to begin with. For example, if you don't start until you're 5 years into your career and you're used to keeping all of that money, even putting in 5-6% of that money away, you're like, oh, it hurts me because I'm used to dealing with all this money. What I did is, I wish I would have started even earlier. I didn't start until I got my first job out of college. Start at 18. Start as soon as you can open up those accounts. For my sisters, personally, whenever I give them money, I make sure that they have to save half of it. So I'm paying my sister $50 to take care of my cat, and I'm like, only 25 of that is going to you. 25 is going into a savings you can't touch right now. If you get a direct deposit, just automate everything so you don't even have to go in and see it. Of saying, oh, going into your account and seeing that maybe you got paid $1,000 and you don't want to send that $200 over. If you just automate it and you're already used to only getting $800, I feel like it's way better with the mental challenge of it all.
Totally. And I taught a class for they were adults at NC State. While I was teaching an investing class, someone opened up an IRA account like while we were in class. Yeah. So it's not as complicated as you think it is.
It's time that's on your side when you start earlier rather than later. It's just $20, but you could set yourself ahead by tens of thousands of dollars versus waiting until you make more money. Do it now, and especially for a lot of my followers who are living at home, once you're out of college, still act like a broke college student until you physically cannot anymore. How do you stay disciplined enough to save the money?
I'm not disciplined at all, actually. People are surprised by that. What that means, though, is that if you actually build habits, then you don't have to be disciplined, if that makes sense, right? If you think about brushing your teeth every day, or you just go and do it. That's become a habit where you don't have to be disciplined about brushing your teeth. You just do it at this point because you've done it so many times. So that's why in my book and like what I teach my clients is around building habits so that it becomes automatic and you don't have to think about it. So I have what I call like the $1 rule, which essentially is whenever I go buy something, so for example, this jacket, my rule is if you're going to buy clothing, which I'm not disciplined at all, then it just has to equal to $1 per use. Would I wear this jacket 20 times? Yeah.
Fair.
It'll probably make it 20 times, and also the quality of it is good enough for it to be 20 times. So then I just don't think about it as much anymore, and I just buy the thing. But if it's not going to add up to $1 per use, then I don't buy it.
I wish y'all could see my Uggs. I think I'm at like 20. I think you have to pick what type of hard you're going to do. Is it going to be the hard of making more money, or is it going to be the hard of staying disciplined with your money? With me personally, my goal is to, yes, decrease your expenses as much as you can, but you can't really budget yourself out of not making enough money. So sometimes you have to shift focus and just shift on making more. Are you going to be very adamant and diligent about your budget, or are you going to be very adamant and diligent about increasing your income as much as possible? Don't put yourself down and don't tell yourself. A lot of people don't track their expenses to the cent.
And I think there's a difference between being disciplined and being consistent. Mm-hmm. You can be consistent without being disciplined. I found the people who make the most money, and I've worked with several other like multimillionaires, they're just consistent every day. They show up every day. They eat the same thing every day, which is that I could never do. But they always have consistent habits, or they're just focused on growing their income instead of all these other little things that take up your time.
Should I cancel my credit cards when I paid them off? I still get charged monthly when I do. That's interesting. I don't know why you're still getting charged monthly if it's paid.
If you're getting charged monthly and you're not using them, you pay them off, then you definitely probably want to look at canceling them, because there's plenty of credit cards that are available for you that does not charge a monthly fee. I have a business card and I have a personal card, and both of those are paid off every week in full. This is a hard thing for some people to hear, but if you have credit card debt, then you need to pause using the credit cards until you clear out that debt. So if you have cards that are not serving that purpose, then you want to go find cards that will work better for you instead. And there's really no reason, in my opinion, to be paying for cards that have fees like that.
Like said, Bernadette is so cool and so inspiring.
Thanks.
I treat my credit cards like a debit card. If I don't have it in my checkings, I don't use it. So basically, I just get the credit cards for whatever bonuses they have and whatever advantages they give me. They like when you have a balance. They like when they get interest. I don't think a credit card got me once, and that was because I didn't set it on auto pay. I'm pretty sure I have ADHD and I just forgot about it. And it was a $25 charge. Like, it was literally just something that I bought for $25 that I genuinely forgot about. And it haunts me to this day. I felt so stupid because on top of it, to have a missed payment, what people don't understand, it doesn't mean that you missed it the day after. It's 30 days after. Like, I genuinely just let it go and forgot it was there. You have to know yourself and know what type of control you have. But with closing them, yeah, if they're still charging you monthly, that's outrageous. I'm 17 years old and I'll be turning 18 next month. Can I finally move out? Happy early birthday, first of all.
Congratulations. 18 is such a wonderful age. I do that with a lot of my clients. I actually help them to get their kids out of their homes. And so what I did was I sat down with her and we did a budget together and said, how much is it going to cost for you to leave the household? So what are you going to pay for rent? What are you going to pay for your car? What are you going to pay for food? What are you going to pay for transportation? What are you going to pay for your health stuff? And so once she realized how much that was, and I said, for you to move out, you need to have at least 3 months so that you're ahead of the game. She got so motivated. She sold so much clothing. I actually went with her to the clothing store and she made $400 in that one day, right after we did the budget, because she was like, okay, now I have a clear goal.
Yep, that's what I recommend too. Nowadays, you shouldn't feel shame about living at home. I think if you're living at home comfortably and you have a good enough relationship with your parents, I think you still should move out eventually. But if you want to feel a little bit more comfortable, if you want to buy a house first, whatever goal it is you have, but I think that 3 to 4 months of savings is really crucial because you don't know what comes up. Sometimes things come up, so having that buffer helps a ton, and make sure that you have a consistent paycheck. And when you're 18, don't feel like you need to be in a rush to do it. You might have to get roommates instead of living on your own. I moved to Charlotte so that I could live on my own. Even though my family is here, I moved here because of the cost of living, because I knew I couldn't really live on my own in New York City. I wanted roommates in New York City, but none of my friends were ready to move, but I knew that I wanted to live out of the house. The heart that I picked was moving to Charlotte. So sometimes you might have to move. Sometimes you might have to get in a crappier apartment. You just have to pick what sacrifices you are and are not willing to make.
I did move out when I was 18. Like, I went to college and then I just never came back. You know, understandably, if you don't have a great relationship with your family, that's one thing, but it's a weird thing because in pretty much most other countries, people, they don't move out like that. I'm Asian. All of my friends who stayed at home until their mid-20s, they bought a home, their next one. This whole culture of, Americans got to be independent and free and whatever.
I find it a little bit silly at times. Like, if I could stay under my parents' roof until I was ready to either buy a house or move out of Charlotte, I would have. Hey, in the case where you need a roommate in order to move out, what's the process to go and find a good one? Did you have roommates when you moved out?
Oh my God, I had 4 roommates.
Same. I had 4 roommates in college.
Yeah, so we had 5 people living in one
and I had
apartment.
1 bathroom. Did you have more than one?
We had 2 bathrooms. Okay, so that was a little bit of a help. So process of finding good roommates. Ooh, okay. I've never actually lived alone, which is a weird thing for me to say. I've always had roommates, and now I've had a 12-year roommate.
This is my first time. I hate living alone. I actually prefer roommates.
Yeah. You definitely want to sit down with the people that you're potentially rooming with and have a discussion about what particular things you expect as a roommate. Mm-hmm. And so what I mean by that is, okay, we're going to split chores, right? Are you expecting me to eat dinner with you every day? Or just laying out there, what's your lifestyle, and see if your lifestyles match. Yeah. Because in hindsight, this is my first apartment post-college, and I had 4 roommates, and I was the only person who ever cleaned up at all. It was 2 guys and 3 girls. It was a mess. And so luckily, when we ended the lease, the one guy said, actually, we're going to just give the deposit to Bernadette, because she was the only one who actually took care of the apartment. One roommate is that a lot of times you don't get equal sized rooms
yeah,
and
so
stuff.
You have to split the price. One of my roommates had the smallest room, but she also paid the least.
We happened to have the actual measurements of what the apartment was, so we did it by square footage, and we found a fair thing there. Sense. And then the last piece, I would say, in terms of looking for a good roommate, is you set expectations of what would happen if one of you were to leave.
Yeah, I did that with my old roommate, loosely, and I'm glad that we did, because we intentionally asked leasing, what does it look like to get out? And luckily for me, we could do a lease takeover. So somebody was able to take over my portion of the lease, because if not, I would have been stuck with her or had to pay $10,000. If you're going to live with your friends, I feel like a lot of people aren't honest with how close of a friend you are, or also don't prioritize the friendship over the roommate situation. So we prioritized the friendship, and we were friends that could be like, hey, the dishes are getting overwhelming, can somebody clean it? And nobody took it to heart. So you have to let some of the petty stuff go, and you have to accept what you're okay with and what are your actual boundaries. With me, my room is always going to be a mess. You don't really get a say in this. However, the common areas have to be walkable.
A young couple who wants to coexist while saving. If you're a couple and you're really looking like a long-term future here, then I believe people should budget together. I actually don't necessarily think that everyone should like share all their bank accounts and finances. I originally thought so actually when I first started doing coaching, but there came up a lot of situations like with financial abuse or like actual abuse that I finally understood like why some people might not share accounts. Regardless of whether or not you share accounts, you should still be able to sit down and do a budget together, even if you're doing separate budgets.
It was just like something to hold us
Accountable. It's an opportunity for you to share as a couple, like, here's what's going on with me, here are my priorities this month, so that way you don't have a fight later on of just like, I told you like I can't eat out this week, or like I told you I was going to be busy working overtime. That's the point of a budget, is to set your intentions for the month. And if so you're in a serious relationship with someone, then you want to set intentions with that person as well, so that they're aware of it. And like a budget is a great way to communicate that.
Nice. If you want to end it with telling them a little bit about the workshop and then the book. And
Sure. Thanks for listening in, and thanks for watching this whole replay. My book comes out December 10th. It is Crush Your Money Goals. It's available wherever books are sold, but in conjunction with the book launch, we're doing 2 free workshops, one on December 10th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and then one on Sunday morning at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time on the 15th. And both of those are specific strategies and steps that you can learn today. Bring a pen, bring paper, and actually take notes on how you can start your financial plan, and you don't have to wait until the new year.
Thank you so much, Bernadette.
Thanks for having me. Bye.